Pat Fontaine's Executive Director, Mississippi Hospital and Restaurant Association. And, man, if there is any industry out there, and we said this a little bit earlier. Pat, good morning, sir. It's good to have you, and I appreciate you coming in.
Good morning, Paul, and thank you for having me.
You got it. I said this earlier this morning. I'm trying to figure of another industry that has been at the apex of the tornado that has suffered more during this pandemic. And not only that, has changed its business model or have been changed by the aftermath of the storm. And it's got to be the restaurant associations or the restaurant people across the country. Your thoughts?
Oh, indeed. Restaurants have been impacted greatly. And you are correct that as a result, business models will change or have changed.
Have changed already, yeah.
And continuing to change.
Are you a little amazed as you still see people coming in and throwing it on the table, and not in the casinos but in the marketplace, and saying, all right, we want to get a restaurant, and taking that leap?
Yes. Definitely not the ideal times to enter into the industry, but we are seeing it. We are. There are people seeking opportunities at this time.
What has the supply chain done for your members across the state? And you're the head honcho of the Mississippi Hospitality and Restaurant Association. What's the supply chain, as if we needed any other problems?
Well, there have been some improvements, but there's still shortages. I was dining out last Thursday night at a local restaurant, and there was a signature salad that wasn't available because the key ingredients weren't available. So the shortages they still exist. Again, I think that helps drive the prices up, limited supply.
Yeah.
And as a result, you still see menu offerings that are limited. As a result.
One of the other things, too, that people don't, I think most people understand this, gas is just like the blood of everything. It plays into, you got to get that to market. A lot of the products have whatever they needed to get it to market. It's a part of the petroleum part of a process that gets it there. So when you have gas prices go up, and the average in Mississippi, I think $3.15 or $3.16 this morning, it just doesn't get any better. Until that comes down, the supply chain and everything else is going to hurt.
That is correct, and there's another impact as well. I mean, certainly the cost of your products increases, delivery costs increase for the producer.
Yeah.
But also for the consumer. When you're paying more at the gas pump, particularly those who are on fixed incomes, then the discretionary dining budget is diminished. So the frequency of families dining out decreases.
What's the overall health of would you think, of your members across the state?
I would have to say that overall we're surviving. I don't know that I could say that anybody is just really thriving at this time. They're dealing, of course, with increased food costs, still dealing with some labor issues, and particularly during this Omicron surge. The spread of it, employees were out, family members of employees were out, so that was a challenge, and the availability of tests early in January. So,
and there were a lot of people who just didn't want to come out. Number one, and there were when we had the mandatory requirements for masks, there were a lot of people who either just didn't want to wear the mask, and some of them who couldn't. I have my wife is one of those that she'll wear the mask, but she really does suffer trying to put that mask on for a while. It's one of those things that some people just can't do it. So she will do it, but in a place that is mandatory. But when you have to go to a restaurant and do that, those early days, they just decide not to go. Pat, it was kind of like having a tornado hit, having a hurricane hit, and tornadoes within the hurricane, and then having an earthquake while all that's going on. The labor shortages, the high prices now, everything else. It's crazy.
You're absolutely right. I can remember, in the early days, late March and April of 2020, and just, the the biggest concern was, when can we, have the shelter-in-place restriction lifted? And it seemed like that at that time that was the only hurdle to clear. And boy, here we are, 2 years later, and we're still dealing with the lingering effects.
What is the model done, the restaurant model done, where as far as where we've changed and seen some people take advantage of it? I'm going to just answer my own question here. I would think the drive-through and the delivery is a whole new concept, and maybe there were a lot of people, certainly non-franchise businesses, that said, hey, man, we got to get into this, we got to kick this up and start using technology. Is that one of the ways that this thing has changed? Absolutely.
And for those operators that, made those changes to focus on curbside pickup and delivery, they fared and are continuing to fare much better. And you look at, footprints of restaurants, indoor seating capacities are decreasing. Spacing is between tables, seats increasing. More outdoor seating available. The pickup areas in restaurants, to facilitate the curbside pickup. So moving forward, and most definitely drive-throughs. When you see some of the drawings of future fast food restaurants, it looks more kind of like a bank.
Yes.
With the drive-through tellers, so.
Anybody wants to start a restaurant, and you just need to study as far as drive-through is concerned, you got to study the Chick-fil-A model. How these people do it, I have no idea. It is amazing. It is a symphony of effectiveness and efficiency.
Most definitely.
When you look at what your members need more than anything else, I understand business, but as far as any legal help at all from the legislature, is there anything in this session that's going through that they may need and that they're looking for?
Well, of course, at the federal level, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund replenishment.
All right, let's talk about that when we come back.
Okay.
And tell me exactly what that is. Executive Director, Hospitality and Restaurant Association. It's Pat Fontaine. We'll talk more on now. Back with Pat Fontaine, Executive Director, Mississippi Hospital and Restaurant Association. Pat, you said that there was a bill at the federal level that would be beneficial to the industry in our state or nationwide.
Well, it's the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, which was passed through the American Rescue Plan Act, and initially it was $28.6 billion allocated specifically to the restaurant industry, but that was nationwide. So it was depleted within the first 21 days. Here in Mississippi, we had roughly 1,900 restaurants apply for that grant. Only 511 received funding, so that left about 1,400 restaurants that had applied in Mississippi that did not receive the funding. Senator Roger Wicker has been phenomenal in supporting this and trying to get the replenishment of this fund. And right now where we're at, they're hopeful that the replenishment, which they're seeking an additional $40 billion for this fund. Of course, that would be nationwide. But hopeful that it will be attached to this upcoming spending package that they're discussing right now. And if not, the likelihood of there being additional funding is just so greatly diminished. And the impact that it has for our members, this was a recent survey conducted by the National Restaurant Association in January, and these are some statistics specific to our state. Just the impact that receiving these funds has. 22% of restaurant operators that applied for a grant but did not receive funding say it is unlikely that they will be able to stay in business beyond the pandemic if they do not receive additional funds through the RRF. 94% of restaurant operators that applied for a grant but did not receive funding said a future grant would enable them to retain or hire back employees that otherwise would have to be temporarily or permanently laid off. So the impact that these funds have had on restaurants, it's enabled them to endure some of these pressures that they're currently facing.
I would imagine that you have both franchise and non-franchise people who are members of the Hospitality and Restaurant Association. How have they fared, compare those two, weathering the storm here? Have franchise owners fared better than individual owners?
I would not say that there's, during this pandemic, there really is no differential. If it is not significant.
Really? Because you would think because of franchise, maybe you had the mothership hold you up a little bit, but I guess if the numbers are not there, you're going to sink regardless if you've got a franchise or not.
No.
And you've got that franchise fee to pay, so that's...
And labor, I mean, you're still... The challenges are the same regardless if you're a franchisee or an independent.
Yeah, instead of throwing you a life jacket, they threw you a buoy or an anchor. Is that it? So it is an amazing industry to be in, and my hat's off to these people because, look, I think the only thing that I can relate to would probably be a farm guy. If you were on a dairy farm, a restaurant probably is about as much work as anything else. Your final thoughts, sir?
Well, although we are, still enduring some challenges, our industry is a very resilient one, and they are, owners look for ways to overcome the challenges, and they've done a great job and will continue to do so. I simply ask that you continue to patronize your local restaurants, whether it be, dine in, curbside pickup or delivery.
We heard earlier, I remember having this, it's been several weeks ago, talking about what a crate of chickens cost now compared with what they were, just last year or year before last under the Trump administration from prices like that. What steak prices have gone through the roof? I see you're thumbing through some things there. You have some numbers on that?
I do here.
Yeah, if you can find them, I'd love to hear them because they're outrageous.
Go ahead. This is from a firm called Compass Restaurant Consulting and Research. Wholesale commodities update. Beef has actually kind of stabilized, but when you look at it, when I say stabilized over the past month, when you look at it over the past year, here we go.
Pat is searching at this moment here.
I had that earlier.
That's okay. That's all right.
But I can tell you that
we know that it's gone up exponentially in some cases.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I can tell you that as a result, menu prices over the past 12 months in the full service segment have increased 7.1%.
7.1%.
Yes.
It's about like the inflation itself then.
It's when you look at January, it's 6.4%.
And then if your favorite restaurant happens to be, I don't know, maybe 15 miles away, that's 30-mile round trip. If you're getting 30 miles a gallon, that's $3.15. You add that to it, et cetera, et cetera. So all of it costs you one way or the other. Pat, thank you, man. Appreciate it very, very much. Good luck to you guys, and stay in touch with us.